The time for deliberation is over, and I will not be deterred. I am coming off the sidelines to establish myself as an unabashed and unrepentant cinematic boob revivalist. To best enable a conducive discussion on the topic of Hollywood's critical boob shortage, it is necessary to distinguish and categorize the enormous variance of on-screen knockers, because physically and socioculturally, not all boobs are the same. The first category are the femme fatale boobs, bazookas seen from post-war cinema onward, owned by sultry damsels, who wield them as part of their arsenal of seduction and manipulation, making them, and by extension the femme fatale's intentions, irresistible to even the most jaded of private dicks. The archetypal femme fatale hooters have subsisted into modern superhero fare, before being discreetly and prudishly tucked away in recent years. The next category is coming-of-age adolescent fantasy boobs. These are shower and locker room-centric hooters, glimpsed with rapturous excitement and discovery by voyeuristic, ogling, often nerdy teens in 80s films, involving oblivious cheerleaders ponderously and thoughtfully stripping, and often culminating with some slapstick calamity in which the boys are exposed. Next is the subcategory of gratuitous 80s shower boobs. These are cans often observed in their natural habitat of Canon studio films, where the camera will be fixed in a static shot as a woman, seen from the waist up, strips and has a shower, in a sequence that is completely redundant to the plot or character development and is purely included for the sleazy B-grade trope to try and boost ticket sales and VHS rentals with the inclusion of some perky jugs. A further category is ironical boobs. These are forefronted at the behest of a woman with an ample rack for comedic effect that is sanctioned by the thin and often tenuous notion that the actress is ironically in on the humor, but which nonetheless results in an unignorable flouting of satirical bazooms.
Is this some kind of bust?
Well, it's very impressive, yes, but we need to ask you a few questions.
Further, there are Playboy Mansion Hugh Hefner postmodern boobs. These, similarly, rely on a degree of irony, though not quite reaching the tenable proposition of meta-tits. They are displayed with an empowering post-feminist embrace and ownership of sexuality, a savvy counter-narrative to feminist constraints during the 90s, an element within the postmodern free play of ideas variety of melons. Lastly, as a significant subcategory is art house boobs. These are historical jubblies, unleashed on screen to viscerally emphasize the rapture of divesting oneself of societal constraints, often in a setting where two historical hotties start lesing out. However, the art house tits category can also encompass sociocultural tits, which are casabas belonging to nymphomaniacs and sex addicts in edgy character studies directed by hip European cinema auteurs. Having systematically laid out and even paid homage to the immense variety of Babylons, it is important at this juncture to zero in on the most amenable on-screen iteration, which is just plain old nice cleavage. Breasts that are nice to look at, are reasonably covered so as not to be gratuitous, express the physique and contours of the female form, are in frame in a proportionate way that doesn't objectify, and serves a purpose as an element in the enjoyment of mainstream flicks, where guys might appreciate said cleavage without any particular socio-cultural implications. What I'm asking Bob Iger et al. To consider is the notion of holistic tits. That is, being receptive to the proposition that an attractive, likable, dynamic female character on screen is constituted from various elements, of which a decent pair of tatas is not a prerequisite, but can be factored in as a legitimate factor in the box office draw, and that the presentation of fun bags in high-resolution IMAX quality, far from being an insuperable problem, is actually a time-honored and sensible notion, whereby the actress may in fact be open to incorporating her sensual appeal. Their character may use their sexuality to their advantage, to lure adversaries into a false sense of security as an integral part of their mystique. Somehow, things have gotten prissy and almost sexless. Modern Hollywood seeks to empower women, but doesn't see femininity or sexuality as part of that empowerment. Skinny, androgynous actresses are more common, augmented by suits that allow them to come across as robust and physically durable. A younger generation of writers have brought certain attitudes and self-inserts and wish fulfillment and identity politics preoccupations into the writing room. One being a social constructivist view of gender that sees gender as a construct and negative means of power relations informed by negative gender roles and stereotypes. Another is body positivity, where depictions of female beauty considered unreasonable or unobtainable might have a negative impact and should be minimalized on screen. Another is that female superhero characters should be depicted as every bit as powerful as the men. Mix all of this together and you get a modern Hollywood set on empowering women where body types have gone from curvaceous to a female body type that is lacking in curves at all. The unabashed appreciation of the female form and its graceful and athletic movement in Wonder Woman and Black Widow are becoming exceptions. The female form is increasingly being covered up in full-length bodysuits that reduce the breasts to window mannequin mounds, perhaps with the intention of steering the viewer's gaze away from objectification and more towards the heroine's ability and persona. It also has a negating effect, diminishing the female aptitude for seduction, allure, charm, and the power also inherent with sensuality and beauty, which can include beauty from the neck down. Shirtless beefcake guys still abound, of course, but that remains acceptable, even though the same rule of unattainable and unrealistic body standards ought to apply. A rare exception is the box office success Fast X, which features numerous scantily clad chicks just being scantily clad chicks, because there is a substantial demographic of young men who enjoy content on screen that is embellished with scantily clad chicks with appealingly curvaceous boobs. And nobody died. Speaking of self-inserts, let me impose my own circumstances and proclivities. I'm a liberally educated, lettered gentleman with a degree in the humanities, steeped to the chaps in literature, culture, creative pursuits, my character imbued with secular, pluralist and egalitarian impulses and drives, devoted to empowerment, tempered capitalism, multilateralism, civility and discourse, with faith in the better angels of our nature, and that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. And I also like seeing a bit of cleavage when I sit down to watch a film I doled out cash to experience. There is, then, a really unanswerable need for a revival of boobs on screen, to prevent them from becoming distant memories, and restore decency to a film industry that has sadly lost its way.